So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is K.Short, and welcome to another episode of Connecting the Dots. I'm so excited for this guest that's coming on because, y'all, this one's family at this point. So much so that I am the godmother of one of their children. So this is not going to be just any interview or any conversation. You know, it's something where we'll get the chance to get to know each other even more and connect even further. And, you know, to be completely transparent with you, I don't know if we've ever actually had this conversation in this way. But if not, at least it's getting to be documented for the little ones for them to watch in the future. So Christina is a digital business manager and a mom of two living in Arizona. With nearly 20 years of experience in the administrative professional world, she launched her first business in 2020. Great timing, sis. And now owns 3 thriving companies. At the Co-op agency, they transform businesses by optimizing operations, managing projects, and leading teams, allowing entrepreneurs to focus on growth while enjoying quality family time. Their mission is to help moms achieve part-time hours with a full-time pay, ensuring that they can provide for their families both financially and emotionally. Inspired by her journey, she aims to share strategies that help game changers grow their businesses without sacrificing the moments of why the script won't continue. Did you write more in there? I was like, wait. I was like, there's more. There it is.
Okay.
No, I'm a liar.
Damn it. Stop lying to the people.
I'm not lying to the people. Here it is. Okay, look. Yeah, that's what it says. Is that she's inspired by her journey and aims to share strategies that help game changers grow their businesses without sacrificing the moments that matter most.
There you go.
There it is. Now let's try something else over here. We're going to see if this thing works. Lordy. There she is. It's going to work, because I said. Hey, sis. Welcome to the show, episode number 8. So happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here, and just another family chat for us.
It is going to be a family chat for us. I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit more because, again, I'm not sure if we've actually had the chance to get to know each other as the little girls on the playground. So why don't you rewind us 30-some years back and let us know where you were born and raised and what that experience was like, and so that we can have something to connect back to, a dot that we can connect back to when we start talking about your entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, sounds good. So let's see, 30-some years ago, I was born in Virginia. I was in Virginia for maybe till I was like 4 or 5, and then I moved to Maryland with my mother. So I didn't spend much time in Virginia, but I moved to Maryland, and that's where I spent majority of my younger years. And I'll say living in Baltimore, it bred a lot of culture for me. Like Baltimore, they consider it small-timore, so like everybody knows everybody. And I would say growing up as a young girl in the city, I had a pretty close-knit community around me where, you know what I mean, we did a lot of things like community events and like musical events. I spent a lot of time with family. And I would say as a young girl, I was a very like curious and very observant child. I was always, looking out for other people. I was always caring for other people. I was always like the person that anybody could come to me for advice, or if they needed like a pick me up, or if they needed like some type of, high energy from a young girl. I was always that person. I was always the person to take care of everybody else and make sure everybody else is good. So much so to a detriment to myself in some cases. But that's something I learned, later on in life. Um, I don't know what else to
I
say about
won't, nope, don't think I'm gonna let you get away on that one. Where do you, and only because we talk about this, we talk about human design, we talk about,
trauma.
healing generational trauma, we talk about all of these things. I would love to know, like, what have you gathered so far as to why you were that person in your family and in your community?
Oh, well, I'll say now that I'm really deep diving into the art of human design, it kind of just it led me to a lot of reflection for one, because I'm a 3-5 emotional projector for all those people who are aware of what human design is. And the main thing or the main attribute about a projector is that they have a bird's eye view of things, so I'm able to like see a whole picture. I'm able to see the big picture with and being able to like see what the moving parts are. So I think that that was a key attribute for myself to be able to, one, be able to be a support to other people, because if I'm able to see the bigger picture, I can better support the person with, being able to know what they're going up against, or knowing, like just like the different aspects.
Okay, but you didn't know about human design then. So what have you gathered in terms of what needs were you trying to fill during that time? As to be that person in your family. Like you weren't going around as a kid, I'm a projector, so I'm gonna help everybody. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
was there anything that was happening within your family situation or anything like that as to why you felt like you needed to do so much pouring out?
Yeah, I'd say so when I moved from Virginia to Maryland, I moved only with my mom, and my dad stayed in Virginia.
Hmm.
And so for a good point in my life, my biological father wasn't in my life, as much. And being that my mom was a single mother for a good point of time, being that she was working a lot, and my brother, is my brother, and a boy who just wants to do their own thing. I feel like as a young child, I saw a need that needed to be fulfilled. Um,
Mm.
to help support, what I mean, to help provide. Like I started cooking at a young age. I started, washing dishes and doing laundry and doing all the things that, would I guess an adult would normally do. But as a child, where I saw like, hey, I know this will help my mom. This will take a load off of her so that I can, help provide for our family.
Hmm, that's so interesting because I recently, maybe a couple months ago, sent you something on Instagram and I was saying like how it was this little girl. She saw that her mom was like really tired on the couch, and the little girl started cleaning up and doing the dishes and putting the laundry away and things of that sort. And I was all like, that's what True would be doing if I
Yeah.
was there, because I know for me growing up, I very much was very aware of how hard the adults in my life were working. And so I would gather young people, the children, and be like, hey, we are going to make sure this house is spick and span before your mom gets home so that they can just come home and rest. And so it's interesting to hear that it sounds like that was something that you were taking on as a little person too. And probably why you also appreciate you also appreciated that little Instagram message too. So
Yeah.
with that said, like how did that contribute to you going through middle school and high school, like when it came to just growing and developing into the person that we all got the chance, to navigate during those times.
I believe that it led to me consistently just wanting to be of service to people.
Mm.
Because I would say in school, from like elementary school, middle school, high school, I was the type that was like not necessarily like the teacher's pet, but I was like that person that, oh, the teacher said, hey, can you help me with this? I'm like, oh yeah, I can help. Or who wants this like extra assignment? So I'm like, I'll do it. Or somebody didn't have a partner, I'd be that person's partner. So I feel like I've always been the type to like fill in the gaps, and um and like reflecting on life. Literally, that's been my role for such a long period of time. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I want to highlight it because I think when we talk about entrepreneurship and we just, talk about to some extent like going out on your own, um yeah, I'm curious of how connecting the dots at a younger age and how it translates to us when we decide to forge this path. And it makes me curious too to be like, is it something that's consistent over the years of our lives, or does it just like change somehow down the way and you're like, I just see a problem and I want to solve it? But maybe just be exactly what you're saying, that you've just felt like you've had to fill in the gaps, growing up. And so that's the same thing that you're doing, with the businesses that you've started too. Would you agree, disagree?
I agree. I will say now though, in the later years, or at least within this last year, I've been learning more about just like boundaries
Mm,
because, and also this space of like filling my own gaps before I start filling other people's gaps. 'Cause
for
I think
real.
that, starting as a young child with that trajectory of like always consistently pouring into other people's cup, I really got into that habit of just like continuing
Mm,
to like pour. If somebody came up to my table, I was like, oh yeah, you need some water? Oh yeah, you need some. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, there's no more water left for me. And
mm.
it took 30 some years for me to really like hone in on that message that, hey, like it's okay to fill in gaps, but just make sure that your gaps are, filled in first.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about who you were in high school. I'm just curious if we would have been friends, if we would have been in same circles. I feel similarly in terms of filling in those gaps and wanting to be of service. And I was a teacher's pet, but they were cautious of when they used me. they were, they kind of used me to make sure to get me to stop talking.
Yeah, I can see
That's
that.
funny. Yeah, I was like, I'm laughing now. They're like, oh, hey, Kathleen, go do this thing so you stop talking to other people. And they just keep me busy. I'm just like, yeah, sure. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to be useful. But now that I am an educator, I'm just like, I see what was happening now. I see what you were doing, Miss Avila. Okay,
Oh
okay.
god.
But
Oh, that'll teach
yeah,
you. Oh god.
yeah. So what were you involved in high school? And yeah, I'm
Mhm.
just curious if we would have been friends
Yeah.
then.
I mean, I feel like we probably would have been friends because I'm pretty sure we maybe have had like the same similar clubs and things that we might have been interested in. Like I was in SGA. I
What's
was
SGA?
student government.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Wait, wait,
Um,
wait. What role were you in student government?
I was the trustee. I was the one in charge of the money.
You're the one in charge of the money?
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Well, well, I think one year I was the trustee, and then the second year I was the vice president.
Makes sense why even now I'm still delegating money stuff to you a little bit.
I love it. As much as I'm like, keep that money, keep it away from me. I don't want it. But yeah.
We gotta work. I'm currently working on money mindset right now, and one of the things I'm practicing is like, I love money. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because I used to be that way too. I'm like, get that thing away from me. And so how much I was repelling it. So
Yeah.
today is only day 2. So
Sorry.
talk to me in 8 weeks, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
I've been working on it too.
continue.
I have a new money mantra that I say. I say I don't work for money. Money works for me, and I say that literally every day. So.
That part. It does. It does. Okay, so we were in student government. What else?
I was in student government. I was in journalism. I was on a newspaper. I was the editor. Yeah, I was the editor in chief. Which,
Okay.
well, I was editor in chief on my senior year. I was like the assistant editor for 2 of the years, and then became the editor in chief at the end.
Hey, look at you.
I feel like I was pretty all over the place too. I did a lot of sports. I played volleyball, I played basketball, I ran track, which I really wasn't that great at, but I still did it. I wasn't great at any of the sports to be honest, but I like to participate. I love to be social. I love to hang out with other people. So I'm like, if that's something that can get me out of the house, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say the only reason I was somewhat slightly popular in school is just because my mom was a teacher at my school, so everybody knew me as Miss Hall's daughter or
Mm,
Josh's little sister. So I had a big problem. I feel like if I wasn't at that school, I wouldn't have been as popular as I was. I like to just kind of like hang out with my crew and just, develop it as it was.
yeah. No, that's fun. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We were in a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because I wouldn't. even getting to know you, you still feel a little bit more on the shyer side for me. So I'm like, I'm curious of
Yeah.
what happened along the way in that sense, or maybe it's just because you moved to Arizona and didn't know folks. I'm not sure. So why don't you, after being involved in all these things, being, Mrs. Hall's daughter and Josh's little sister, what happened around 18 to 22, and then guide us to how you got to Arizona, so then we could talk about how we met.
Okay. Well, one, I want to start with, I think people say or refer to me as shy. So I don't know where you're
That's why I'm
at
just
with
like, I don't know. Maybe because I'm just too damn talkative. I'm like, maybe I just don't give you room to talk.
I
I
listen
don't
well,
know.
so I'm a good listener. So that's that's one
Look,
aspect.
look here,
Yeah,
sis. You can't have it all. You just stop that right now.
I can have it
Over
all day.
here, you can. Thank you. You've done that often for me today. Yes. Continue correcting me. Yes.
Yeah, no more kids. No.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I
That
said no more
language.
kids. Mm-hmm.
No more kids.
So yeah, so you asked about 18 to 22. I was at University of Maryland. I only went there for 2 years. I did not graduate. I dropped out. And I
You
dropped out.
left. You left.
I'm okay with it
That's
being dropped
language
out because
too.
I was like,
Is
I was
it?
like,
What does drop out? What's the
I'm
connotation of
definitely.
dropping out?
Mm. It just means like I'm leaving the room or like putting your finger on my trips. Like I gotta exit. I'll see you on the next trip. But I feel like I left because I'm the type of person that I'm a really avid like trial and error person. I love like trying new things. I love seeing what works for me. And for the 2 years that I was at University of Maryland, I think I changed my major about 6 times. And I tried so many different, courses, and I was like, none of this is working for me. I don't like this, this environment. It's not something that's conducive. And plus, it was crazy expensive. And being that I came from the household that I came from, we didn't necessarily have, the financial support to, really make it happen. And like, I think my mom like took a second mortgage out on her home just to like send me for my second year, and I was like, I can't continue to let this happen. So I was like, gotta 86 this experience. And then that led me on my journey of career hopping. I've been in so many different industries. I have never been afraid of just like, going to try, trying to figure out if I belong in an industry. And if I went into it long enough and I'm like, this isn't for me, I have no qualms about leaving it either. So I probably would have been in at least like maybe 10 to 12 different industries.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And which ones did you like the most and which ones did you like the least?
Honestly, I really liked hospitality. I liked being, I was a server for a long time, and then I was a host for a little while. I worked for a country club, but every time I got the front facing interaction with people or just being able to like really show my personality and help people to like enjoy themselves, that's always been like something that really empowered me.
Yeah, you know what? Same. Same, 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 same. And you know what's really frustrating now that I think about that? It's like that's not what gets paid the big bucks, but that's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like as humans, we're here to connect, to feel warmed, to be welcomed. It's truly what keeps us going. When you think about what's happening in our day to day, the most memorable moments are the ones when we connected with others. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's what was so hard to leave the industry for me, because I was like, I really enjoy this. I really love people. I really love serving and supporting people, but it just doesn't pay well. And I'm just like, I would continue to do this. I'm fine with this. Like I was a barista for a long time, and I'm just like, it just makes no sense as to why like the people who are super specialized in solving cancer, I'm just kidding, are super specialized in, I don't know, putting two pieces together in a car together. I don't know. I don't get it. Why they get paid the most? It's so like niche, but it's like we're solving the problem of connection and hospitality and warmth. And I say that because even in the Bible, they talk about this radical hospitality, you know what I mean, of folks who are coming from different countries and different cities, and to, and to be warm and welcoming to them. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I definitely feel like it's a lost art because I
That
feel
part.
like even now, like especially since like 2020 and all the C word happened and all that, like I can definitely say the trajectory for customer service and like human connection has been totally lost, and it
Right.
hurts. Like it doesn't make you want to go out to places. Like that's one of
That part.
I feel like we connected on that of like liking to go to like coffee shops, it was like restaurants
Yeah.
and things like that, and find a good space that has good customer service. But it's like 1 out of 10 places I go to where I get good service, and it's like you lose hope, But I think that there are lots of us out there that feel this way, and that there's going to be a wave. There's going to be a transition where the human connection comes back. It's just going to take us, like, consistently digging our way out of whatever hole we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all. I just want to be transparent with you. Christina and I connected truly last year, last summer. I don't know how it happened, but we were talking about customer service and just connection and in that industry, in the customer service industry, and we were like starting something to support people in that, and training people how to do that. But because, we've been doing it for 15 plus years. And so it was a problem and still is a problem that we wanted to solve. And I don't know, it's kind of percolating on me now that I'm kind of a pissed off right now. I'm just like, why is that?
Yeah.
How come I couldn't make a livable wage when I'm, pouring in so much into people energetically and connection wise, and these people who are putting things together and pressing certain buttons are the ones getting paid the big bucks? It makes no sense to me. I'm gonna have to do some research. So tell me more about, so tell us about you coming to Arizona. And when you tell me about you coming to Arizona, what was that decision like? But also, I want you to then describe the East Coast and West Coast, because I've been traveling a little bit to the East Coast, a little bit in that area, and I'm like, y'all different out here, but you have more experience, and I'm just curious of the two coasts, and yeah, if what we say about each other is so true or not.
Okay. Okay. I think there are facets that are true and some that aren't. But to start it off, what sparked my decision to move to Arizona? I think, what was I doing? I was in Baltimore, and like I was heavily involved in the community. I was working with this organization where we did a lot of community work, and like I had a good tribe around me, and things were really working out well. But I think the fact that Baltimore is so small that it got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I've always been a risk taker. I want to try something different. So many people were in my ear saying, no, don't move. You know what I mean? You have all your family here. You have all the support. Why would you move when you have, everything here? And I'm like, bump that. I was going to be me. And so I remember making a decision. I was like, I want to go somewhere. And I was like, I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go, but I knew that I was deciding between Atlanta and Arizona. And I remember a friend of mine was giving like angel card readings, and I was like, let me just go ahead and, talk to her. I didn't really tell her anything. I didn't say, hey, I'm thinking about moving or anything like that. But like the conversation led to her pulling a card and was like, hey, it looks like you're deciding on a move, or you're thinking about moving somewhere. And I was like, damn, okay, this is real. Getting real close. And like she went into like this story about like, she was like, yeah, I feel like the angels are telling me that you're trying to move somewhere that starts with the letter A. And I was like, what the flip? I was like, okay, cool. And then like that led her into telling me a story about how she found her spiritual awakening in Arizona, which is where the number one place I was trying to move. And like she went this whole story about like how it's so healing there, and how she just was able to like transform her life with that journey. And so for me, that felt like a huge sign. I was like, I guess that's where I'm going. I'm going to go to Arizona, And I had never been to Arizona before. I had only heard about it. And I knew that the only thing I knew was that it was going to be a lot of sun. And that's something that I was looking forward to, because in Baltimore, there's lots of like tall skyscrapers, and like it's super cloudy, and just, a lot of humidity and all those things. So I felt like, I didn't really do that much research before I moved here. And I had never been here. The only person I knew was my really good friend Ashley, and she had been telling me since I met her, she was like, come move to Arizona. I was like, what do I move to Arizona for? And one day I just like, hey, I called her. I was like, guess what? I'm coming there. And she was like, no, you're not. And so yeah, it was pretty interesting for me to I literally packed up all of my belongings or what would fit into my car. I had $700 in my bank account, and I drove across country in 4 days to a state where I did not have a job lined up, and I only had enough to like pay rent for 1 month. So yeah, so it was a huge risk, and I could have flopped on my face, but I did not. So
First off, rent at $700, wild.
yeah, yeah.
um, was
Mm.
there anything that happened during that road trip? I've always wanted to do a road trip cross country. The story sounds nice, but I'm curious of like if anything came up for you. I can only imagine what's like being on the road by yourself with your thoughts. Um,
Yeah.
and if any revelations came.
I would say on the last night, well, it was like the third night I was like driving, I almost turned around because I chose to go the southern route. So like I like went through like Virginia and Atlanta and like, that route. I ended up like stopping to see people like each day, like people that knew in those states or whatever.
Hmm.
But the third and the fourth day, I was driving through Texas, and like I said, I didn't do too much research before, making this journey other than like, hey, where is my apartment? Let me just put it in my maps and go.
Wow.
On the third night, I remember driving through Texas, and everybody drives like fucking 120 miles per hour, like crazy. And it was like this horrible storm. I literally thought like Noah was coming with Ark with the two animals
On the third day.
on the third day. So
Yeah.
like I remember like calling my dad because he used to like drive for a living. So I was like, I don't know what to do because like my car can't handle this. I was like, it's hydroplaning. I need to like pull over. And I remember pulling over, and I remember like, him telling me just like pull over, turn off your car, and just, wait it out. And, I remember sitting in the car, I got the phone, and I just like prayed. I was just like, listen, if I'm meant to get there, I'm meant to get there. And I remember seeing like this huge tidal wave just come over my car from like this 18 wheeler coming past. And it was just like at the timing when it happened, I was just like, you know what? I'm already here. I'm gonna keep going. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've done scarier things. So I was like, I'm gonna just keep moving.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
get here to Arizona, and you said that you already had an apartment, right?
Yeah, and that was the other thing. I found a roommate on Craigslist, so that's why the rent was 700.
Gotcha. I was all like, what year is this that the rent's 700? Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
So this was like 2017 when I moved, which I just realized my anniversary just passed. June 1st, 2017 was when I moved to Arizona. Or when I got
Wow.
here. Yeah,
Wow, that's 7 years.
7 years, fam.
7 years. Wow.
Yeah, so I had a roommate that I didn't know, and it didn't really work out, but I ended up saying, I think I stayed for like a year with her. It was a hard year, but I made it
Yeah.
through. I learned my lesson.
Wow.
I had roommates on Craigslist.
Yeah. No, I'm asking because I'm feeling super inspired. I'm currently in a season where I'm like, I'm wanting to build a life that my lease ends in September, y'all. And, the reason why we're doing this podcast is because I'm moving into entrepreneurship, and I'm like, I need to interview other entrepreneurs. And so it's just crazy hearing people's stories. And I'm just like, okay, wait. I was like, my sister moved across country, $700, found someone on Craigslist. Do I want to move across country? I would actually be staying with my brother in DC. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, what are the possibilities? And I think that's the cool thing about us getting to know each other, and just kind of, again, for me, I'm truly connecting the dots, y'all. I'm just like, wait, I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. Okay. Like, that's really the whole point and premise of this show, is like for you all to see that if we can do it, you can do it, and I think you even talking about on the third day and getting washed over and things of that sort, like for some reason what's been really percolating for me in the past 24 hours was like, is the concept of just keep going. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, because it's when it gets hard is when we're really tested, so I'm sure that that's the moment that happened on that third day, but there's almost like for me at this point where I think about it, where like there's this faith that I'm just like, what else is going to happen if I stop? Like if I just, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to start all over again. Like how many times have I started all over? And I know, that's something that Christina and I have been connecting on, is like how often and willing we've been able to kind of switch things up and try so many different things. And I think a lot of times we felt like, is it us? Like, how come we can't just like choose one? Like, how come we can't just like pick one? And so I'd love for you to like talk more about that and like what you've came up with so far, because in a world, this current world, for a long time, they told us and they programmed us to choose one. But we are now, again, like I've shared before, that I feel like we're the generation who's saying screw all that and flipping the table and being like, you know, there's people in the world who are meant to choose one, but there's other people in the world like us who choose many. So what are your thoughts on that?
I do consider myself a certified risk taker. I feel like I've always, naturally been that way. And I feel like like you said, our generation is definitely the generation to kind of like fuel the pathway to say, you know what, my life doesn't have to look like what my mom's life looked like, or what my dad's like, look like, or my stepmom's, my stepdad's life looked like. In a sense of like they worked a job until they retire, and then they, and then they finally live their life. And, for me, I think at a young age, I feel like I saw how much my mom went through, how much, like all of my elders went through to like really make an impact, even though they really weren't making an impact. They were just, doing the status quo, and I think for me, taking leaps just kind of helped fortify the decision for me to always go after what excites me, no matter what other people think, because everybody always has something to say. People always contribute to saying like, oh, well, I don't think that'll work, or I don't think that's a good idea. What if you don't like it? What if, what if it doesn't work? I'm just like, well, what if it does? Like, and what's the harm in me trying, And I think that one message I would love to continue to like pursue and push is give it a chance. You know what I mean? If you don't know, it's something will work until you try it. And for me, it's definitely a resounding message now that I have two young girls that, look up to me every day, and I see so much of myself in them. I do my best to like cultivate, like, do what you want, live the life that you want. If you see a rock and you like, that rock excites me, go pick up that rock, engage with that rock, hug the rock, do whatever you want with the rock, and, just be the rock, and find out if it's the rock for you. It's not, put that rock down. Try another one. I say that horrible analogy, but
No, I love that. It's like, no, I mean, like we have Mr. Dwayne Johnson has a whole brand off of the rock, so we ain't gonna, we talk about horrible analogies. I'm always a fan of a metaphor and analogy.
yeah.
I want to learn more about,
Yeah.
Look, I was at Target the other day. First off, my friend from Montreal has never been to Target. So I was like,
Whoa.
I gotta bring you to Target. It's a whole thing. I was like, you're not in America unless you go to Target. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of explaining to them how we treat Target here in the States, especially in the Southwest when it's hot outside. So it's just almost like the new mall, to be honest. Anyways, don't get me started on Target, y'all. That's like my favorite data collection place. I love market research in Target and collecting data there. It's so interesting and fascinating to me. I want to talk about, my friend was all like, you're very risk averse, or whatever that means. And I was like, yes, because I've had no one else to really fall back on. So I want to know about you being so willing to take risks. Like, is that something that's cultivated? Is that something that's developed? Do you think that you had a foundation in a support system? Like, what makes you being so willing to take risks?
I won't say that I didn't have a support system, but I don't think I had a support system that led to, me really like having that foundation of like taking a risk. I just think that's just always been me. And I think that it maybe had a lot to do with when I was younger. I definitely kept a lot of my nieces and, my nieces, I only have one nephew, but I kept my nieces when they were younger. And I think that as a young teen, I was always around children and always having that fresh mindset, that eagerness to like learn or discover things. And I was always like helping to pull that out of them. And I think it's just something that just consistently showed up in my space. And honestly, I don't think that I identified that I was a risk taker until I moved to Arizona. Although like prior to that, I had like skydived, went on so many trips by myself. I lived in Virginia by myself, It's like so many things that I did, and I wouldn't have called myself a risk taker until like I met somebody here. They're like, you take a lot of risks. I was like, I don't think I do. But I'm willing to take risks all day long.
Wow. Okay. So All right, we gotta talk about how these babies got here. Tell me, because no one ever had that conversation with me. I'm just kidding.
Oh
I'm
my
just-
Jesus. Yes.
but no one ever did. And
Oh
this is
no.
why I'm very risk adverse. I'm just kidding. I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
I was like,
learning
we
to
can have
be.
girl talk. Yeah, I know where you're going.
So let's catch them up to how we met, how
Mm.
this happened. So I think that first and foremost, we need to talk about the common denominator. Would you like to
Mm.
talk about him first, or would you like me to talk about him first?
I mean, I'll let you talk about him because you used him before I did. So
I did. You know what?
yeah.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna bring this full circle for y'all. For y'all.
Okay.
So y'all, it's 2017 or something like that. Instagram was barely kind of growing. We were able to post like 15-second videos. And I started this YouTube series called Phoenix Rising. I just moved back from college and I was like, man, this city feels different. My hometown feels different. I was like, something's going to happen. And I was like, I saw the wave and I was like, how do I learn how to surf to go swim out to that wave? And so I started a YouTube series and it was in pursuit of becoming a talk show host. And so one of my guests was Roman Novi. And I met him because we were both trying out for the Morning Mess 101.5. I got top 3, but I wasn't queer enough for them. They wanted me to be super all
Right.
that, and I was like, that's not me. It's like, sorry. I still think the person who got the role is still on the show, to be honest. So it's been that long. So I met Roman. And I was trying to co-work with Roman at the time. And so then I think we met up at Charlie's place, somewhere on McDowell or something. We were just co-working. I love co-working, y'all. So if you ever want to co-work in person or virtually, love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'll rarely say no. And so, yeah, we did. And I remember meeting Charlie. And then, he was producing music. And then I interviewed Roman, and then I interviewed this other guy named SB. And again, Charlie was there producing music. He was Charlie's producer. And I was like, well, somehow him and I became friends, and I really don't know how it happened, y'all, to be completely transparent with you, but it just kind of continued and we just kind of stuck around each other. We like to call each other dolphins in an industry that can feel very shark-ish. And so I just really always appreciated his sweet spirit. And so I was like, whoever gets this man, I was like, is going to be one lucky human being, because he's just one of those few people that he's just one of the good ones, y'all. And so I was like, whoever gets him, it's going to be one lucky one. But now that I get to know the person who did that, I'm also like, oh, actually, I think, Charlie, you're the lucky one. So
That's so
well,
sweet.
and I'm lucky because I get to know both of them and be in their lives a lot more than I ever anticipated. So so Charlie, Mr. Charlie Beeman, Mr.
Ooh.
Charlie Beeman. I know it sounds good. I miss him
does.
making music. And
I
so
know.
yeah,
And
but
he's getting back into it. He's been getting back into it, which I'm excited for. So
yeah.
um,
So how'd you meet him?
Oh, I met him ironically with music. Which is funny though. I didn't know that you met him in 2017. So that's like when I moved here, and I didn't meet him until
Yeah.
2018. So I thought that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
But Charlie and I met at an open mic.
Yes.
I was there by myself because when I moved here, like I said, I only knew one person. So I was like actively going out to like different events. And I think I got invited to this open mic by another mutual friend of ours. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll show up. And I remember seeing Charlie walk into the restaurant. I was like, oh, look at that. Look at that cutie over there. He is so cute. But I think I was about to go up next. So I was like, all right, let me just calm my nerves and focus on my song. So and for the life of me, I cannot remember what I sang that night. Charlie always asks me. I was like, who knows? But I remember stewing, and then I remember sitting down, and then I was sitting there for a minute, and then I remember him coming over to me. He was like, hey, I really liked your song. He was like, can I have your Instagram? I was like, you sure can. Here you go, cuties, And then I proceeded to stalk him on Instagram. and like look at all his videos and like his highlights, and I was like, oh, this guy seems so cool. He's like right in my alley. He was like making like little like cool like POV videos of like cooking foods and was like, you know, in nature and just like enjoying music. And you said something earlier about how you like to call each other dolphins. I was like, that's such a great analogy, because I was like, y'all don't, you and Trump are definitely like dolphins. Y'all just be like, you know, bouncing around like, hey, you know, we're here, what we doing? Let's hang out, you know, let's vibe. So I just remember, you know, we connected after that, and I think we just like, I slid in his DMs for sure. I definitely was the person to start the interaction, which I had never done before. I've never like approached a man before or like slid in their DMs. They always, you know, came to me. And I just remember I was like, no, this guy seemed really cool. So let me just go ahead and slide his DMs. And we slid each other's DMs hard. Although he tells the story differently. He swears that we were like, he was trying to friend zone me. And I was like, no, sir, we are not friends. We are more than friends. But I remember we went on, I asked him to like, I think I was like, challenging him to like games. Like we're really, you know, we used to like play like Dragon Ball Z and like, you know, Tekken and like Mortal Kombat as children. So like we went to a Cobra arcade bar and had like our first date, which he still does not consider a first date, but we won't get into, you know, semantics. But like I remember whooping him dread at Mortal Kombat, and he was like, nah, this ain't right. You know, he swears that he won, but I was like, you did not win anything. I won it all. And I remember when we ended that date, he gave me like this cousin hug, and I was like, that's whack, but whatever. And then like we were supposed to meet up again, I believe, and then he got in like a really random car accident. And then I think that's when it turned for him, because I think I said something like, oh, I was really looking forward to seeing you. And he was like, oh, looking forward to seeing me. So that, you know, turned the light on for him. And then I feel like from there it was like history. We went on like a second date to Cobra, and I think we spent that whole night together just like walking around downtown Phoenix. And one of the pivotal parts of that story was we went to eat at a restaurant. We went to eat at a restaurant, and by the time we were leaving, it was pouring down rain. Like, you know, another one of those like Texas rains that I went through. And I remember he walked out the door first, and then I looked down and he had his hand out like for me to grab his hand, and I just grabbed it, and we started walking in the rain. We walked all the way from the restaurant to Cobra. And by the time we got there, like when we walked in, everybody looked at us, because all you could hear was our shoes just so like we were soaking from head to toe, but we didn't care. We played some games, we hung out, and we went to see a movie, and then we just, walked for a long time. We spent like a good 6 hours together that night.
Oh, so good. That's for you, Kamei, and True. So that's why I was like, let's keep this recorded. That's so funny. Because of course on my end, Charlie and I were just getting done putting on some shows called The Set with Peddler, and he was with somebody, and then broke up with that somebody, and then you became that somebody, and I was like, who's this somebody? I was like, Charlie. Yeah. And here's the other side of the story, True, Kamei. Yeah. Now you see what had happened was. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. And yes, that sounds very much the good old times of Phoenix before it got all rowdy, Shout out to the Suns. But also, that was such a good time. That was such a good time in the city. I'm so happy that we were able to be there and be in similar circles and do all that. And ironically, y'all, it's the one thing that brings us together is that music aspect. You know what I mean? So yeah, we'd be out here doing some entrepreneurial stuff. So just know that a lot of that, what you're going to see is going to be a musical element to everything. So speaking of music and things of that sort, I'm curious of how it's played a role in your life. If you're going to be bringing it into your entrepreneurial journey. And then, of course, how does it play a role in you and your family's life?
Music has always been a part of my life. My grandmother was a singer. My aunt's a singer. My uncle is a singer. Like he's I won't go too far into that, but so many people in my life are, musicians. My dad's a musician. So it's always, I feel like it was just like born in me. And I've been singing since I was like, a little girl. I was, in the church choir. I was on the choir in college, you know. And I've always enjoyed singing, and it's always been just something that like helps soothe my soul. Like if I'm feeling like super anxious, I just start singing, you know. And I will say it started in the church, um, because you know, as a young child in a Black community, I was always, you know, in church. So, and then you said, how did it? What was the second question? The second part of that.
The second question is, how does it play into your family?
Mm. I play so to my family. Well, you know, being that we naturally met at an open mic, and he's a producer and I'm a singer, it just, you know, it just naturally clicked. We were really, you know, when we first met, we were going to all the different events and, you know, connecting with all these different artists and just enjoying that. And then by the time True and Kamea came along, it literally was just like a little mini reflections of me, because you can't stop neither one of them from singing a song. If you hear, what's the song? Could Have Been Me from Sing 2, it got comes on. Oh my gosh, they sing at the top of their lungs. And I feel like it's just literally just looking at myself as a kid, because I was always that when I had like, I remember having like a little mini piano at home, and I would just always just like jam out and like make up songs, and I would always turn around and see like my mom and my dad, my mom and my brother, you know, watching me and like clapping and stuff. But it's just like, it's cool to have that reflection and be able to, you know, be able to instill that love of music with my children.
Yeah. Speaking of children, we have to talk about you becoming a mom and how that's been working out for you, and especially again, not working out, but you know, just that experience thus far. You know, especially we talked about, you know, being a generation where we're having to forge a different path that we've never seen before, and so I can only imagine how that shows up when it comes to raising your kids. And so, yeah, why don't you share what it's been like becoming a mom, and how does that play into your work now?
Well, I feel like it's just another branch of my certified risk-taking self, because, um, you know, what I grew up around, like I grew up around, you know, going to, when you have a baby, you go to the hospital. When you have a baby, you know, you put your baby on formula. But I did the exact opposite. I had both of my children all natural, fell to all, and I nursed them both. I'm still nursing one. So like, I feel like the transition into me becoming a mom is always something I've wanted to do, and I feel like I told a lot of my friends prior to meeting Charlie, if I hadn't met him, I would have gone the solo route. I already had like the you know, sperm bank picked out. I'm like, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna, you know, flip through some pages and find, you know, find me a donor. And then I think like 2 weeks later I met Charlie, so I was like, oh, never mind. But
You found your donor.
having yeah, I found him. I was like, no need to flip through a book. Just flip through his Instagram. Yeah. But yeah, the journey of motherhood, I will say, it rocked me a little bit. Because I feel like growing up, nobody really shared what motherhood was. Nobody really shared what or how motherhood changes you, how it, you know, it just redefines your entire life from the, you know, the day that they arrive here. It's completely, you know, it's like inverted. It's like, who am I? And I will be transparent. I suffered through postpartum depression really heavy after Camille was born. And even more transparently speaking, both of my children are rainbow babies. I had a miscarriage prior to both of them. And I shared that because that's not something that was shared with me when I was younger. I didn't hear about miscarriages. I didn't hear about how high of a, you know, a rate miscarriages can happen, and the loss of a child can happen, you know, and then what that does to your body after it's done. And then you know, you go into having a child and you make it to full term. And, you know, it's just a lot of reflection, I feel like, comes with that transition into motherhood. It's like, oh, well, how did my mom handle this? And like, even with postpartum, it's like, how did my mom handle it? How did my grandma handle it? How did, you know, my grandma before that, because I know for a fact there were no resources back then for them, you know. And it's something that's led me to a path of just advocating. Anytime I find out that somebody is trying to have a child or, you know, contemplating becoming a mom, I get real hard up and true, you know, I tell them all the truths I can possibly tell them, because I remember growing up hearing like, oh, once you know, give birth and you put your baby in your arms, you forget about all the pain. And I was like, that wasn't how I remembered it.
Mm.
I remember every bit of it. And it's not like I didn't have a connection with my girls when they were born, but I could still feel everything. I was like, oh, exhausted. How do we pick up and just go home and take a baby with us, and survive in this world? But yeah, I was saying motherhood definitely changed me for the better. Um, it's definitely the most difficult hood I've ever been in, but also the most rewarding. So
Sorry, I just like thinking about the Baltimore hood.
yes, literally, like I've been in a lot of hoods, and the motherhood ain't got
Like, I'm like, this hood is one I created myself, and this hood.
yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh wow.
yeah,
Tell me more about I mean my curiosities could go down all kinds of motherhood questions, but I will leave that for off camera, y'all.
yeah.
I would just sit next to Kamei and True and ask the questions for them. Like, look, this is what happened. Because I don't know how this goes down. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm curious. This is like, we're at that age. We're finally at that age. When you're around for me, when I was around like 28, like there's a couple folks, a couple people in my circle having kids. But now I'm at the age where like it's more likely than not to some extent. Again, we're a generation that is we get choice, and so not everyone is choosing parenthood. And so it is so interesting to hear that like it's something that you've always wanted. I'm curious about that, and also I'm more curious about how it's changed you. I'm curious of like, and I try to do this with anyone who's a parent. I try to ask about the parent. I was like, I'm glad the kids are there. Y'all good? Great. Go eat your apples. I want to talk to the parents. We see, how are you? Because so many times we put so much emphasis on the kids, which is like
Mhm.
fine, but also like for me, I'm just like, what is that gonna like? What does that do to us when we grow up as adults, thinking that we're gonna not get that attention? Like I just like, okay, you're there, you're existing, and that's what's
Mhm.
gonna happen when we get out here in these streets. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is, obviously, when they chose me to be their godmother, we do have to talk about that. I'm obviously like, I had to call him back, y'all. We gotta tell the story. I had to call him back, like, you sure
You
you
want
want me? Because
Huh?
I had to just double check because I'm a little different out here. You know what I mean? So,
No.
anyways, who are you? What has stayed true? What has stayed
Yeah.
true to you and consistent through from this younger version of yourself into motherhood? And what has changed from when you were prior to motherhood and now?
So I feel like I've continued to relate myself to a certified risk taker. And I feel like I still take a lot of risks, but I also feel like I don't take a lot of risks. I just think they're more strategic risks now, just because I have two daughters that I want to be here for. I want to be here as long as I can possibly be here, and I think that was one of the major um transitions into motherhood. Was just like as soon as I became a mom, it was just like I got so emotional because I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna be here with them forever. You know what I mean? There's gonna be a time where I have to leave them, and I'm just like, I don't know when that time is, and oh, don't emotional, but I just want to. I think what's changed me the most is that I just want to do all that I possibly can to get them as much as I possibly can to make sure that that they are reinforced and knowing who they are, and nobody can come to them and change that. You know what I mean? They can know that where they came from, they know that they came from greatness, and they know that they are greatness, and they will always be greatness. And um, I just think that it just reinforced my risk taking to soar to higher heights. Like the fact that I quit my job like, without having, I mean, I feel like I always quit jobs because I'm like, let's move on. But like, that was probably a really huge risk because I had just given birth to True. It was August 2022. And in October, I quit my job because I just couldn't handle I couldn't handle the stress of it. Like, having to compromise and say, oh, well, in order to stay home with my sick child, I have to like use sick time, or I have to like not be paid for this time because, I got to make sure that my children are good. And when at that point, when you gave me a choice between my children and a job, it was as soon as I remade. I was like, I'm going to pick my children all day, every day. I can always find a job. But that really, I started my company in 2020, but I really didn't really take that big leap until 2022 when I quit my job. And I was like, I'm looking at my daughters and I was like, something's got to give. Like, I want to feed her with them. I don't want to work a 9 to 5 and only see them at nights and weekends. Like, that's not what I want. So I think that it just gave me the biggest risk taking level up of all time, because I was like, I can keep saying I want to start this journey, but they're only going to get older. Like, at that point, Kamei was almost 2. And I'm like, how is she 2 years old already? 2 years have already gone by since you were born, and I'm still working at this job. It wasn't it. So
I will say that that's one thing that I've observed the most is that when folks do have children, it puts you in a place where like you go figure it out. You go figure it out.
100%.
That's why I was just like, I ain't gonna be the one to figure it out, so ain't nothing coming from me. But can I be of help? Can I be of support? Can I, you know what I mean? Like, can you change the diaper and then we can play? Cause you know what I mean? It needs to happen. It needs to happen. I need to change a diaper, y'all. I just want to give y'all perspective. That's why I had to call them back. Be like, you sure? I haven't changed a diaper. I told Charlie that. Like, Charlie, I haven't changed a diaper. Are you sure? You're like, oh, I think I need to talk to him after this. You're like, actually, I think we made the wrong decision.
No. I was like, you better reinforce. I remember it being there. I remember you calling back. I was like, why she calling back so quick? I was like, she said you're gonna think about it. And then she called me, I'm sure. I was like, oh my gosh, sure, yes. I was like, we put a lot of thought. I'm pretty sure we talked about it as soon as I got pregnant with True. I was like, who we're gonna consider for, our godparents, and you were the first name that came up for Charlie.
Wow, that's crazy. And yeah, I say that and I'm just like, what's happening right now? It's a big deal, and I still feel so honored to be considered and to be thought of, because I don't take it lightly. And I say that, y'all, I want to say this too because I want to kind of also transition into like why you're choosing to raise them differently. Is that something that's in you? Is it something that you're like, I just didn't want what happened to me to happen to them? But I also say specifically because you had them naturally, you're also vegan, you know what I mean, all these things. I'm curious if health and wellness has always been important to you. Or is it because you had kids, you're like, I just need to change everything that I've been doing? And I say that I that's something I admire about parents and about moms especially, and why I love and why I said yes to wanting to be a part of the tribe, because I was like, look, if I'm going to be a part of the tribe, there's no, you know what I mean? Like, I got to make sure that we're doing things differently around here. Not perpetuating old narratives and stories and traumas and chains. So that's why I was like, I commend you and Charlie in general for just wanting to do that in your personal lives and also wanting to do it with your children too. So share with us what shifted for you. Is this something that's always been a part of you, or did it really shift because of motherhood?
I would say it's been a journey of mine for a while. Like, I will say maybe when I hit like 24, 25-ish, that's when I really like started doing more research on my own about like health concerns, because I feel like so many people around me, especially like my aunts and my uncles, they all had so many health concerns, so many health issues. And the more research I did, I'm just like, well, the reason why we're having all these health issues is because of the things that we're eating, the things that we're putting inside our bodies. And I think I don't know, it was like some video I saw where it was just like, when you go to the doctors and you're saying, oh, I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling this way, the first thing they ask you is, hey, what's your diet like? What are you eating? You would think that, though, if that's the first question they would ask, that would lead to some more people making changes like that, but they don't. So we're not going to go into that. But I will say, with just like the natural lifestyle and just with how we are choosing to raise our children, I think it definitely came from just like our upbringing and how, and it like, I grew up in a household of like, spare the rod, spare the child, and there, when I think about that concept, there's this is like nothing in my mind will ever get me to the point where I'm going to hit my child, like it's just not. And I think that's just because that's, what I grew up around. And it's like, as a child, you have so much development to do, so much, you know what I mean? So much to learn and so much to just embrace from the people that are, caring for you, that I feel like I'm blessed to have met Charlie because we have a lot of the same morals and the same um, style of how we want to just coach our children to be independent beings that are balls of light, that, show up for people and understand that, family isn't necessarily always blood, but family is who, you choose to be around, and how they show up, and I think that's something that Charlie and I have cultivated over, the years since we've met. Um, we've gone through like, different like relationships, different friendships that did work, they didn't, and then it didn't. But like right now, our core is solid. You know what I mean? Like the people around us are solid. And I think that is one of the things that reinforce the things that we were teaching our children, the things that we were, showing up for. Because like growing up, I didn't have this type of support like you. I think about you, I think about Jules, I think about, you know what I mean? Like some of, like Charlie's other counterparts and whatnot. It's revolutionary where we are because this is not what we grew up in. This is not, even us going to like family functions now, like a lot of things we're doing things different from everybody. Nobody else is like not working a job or not, you know what I mean, taking a risk to say, hey, you know what, I'll be okay without a 9 to 5. I'm just gonna, speak about myself, So I feel like being that Charlie and I are so alike in that space, it gave us the courage to know that, hey, even if everybody is a naysayer around us, we are the yaysayers. We are the ones that are in charge of our children, or in charge of our children's development. And we want them to have the best. We want them to have everything that we didn't have. And we want them to know that, hey, no matter what happens, if you make a mistake, come home. If you know what I mean? If you need our help, come see me. If you do something dangerous and you need me to cover up for you, I'll be that person.
That's on record, true. That's on record, Kamea.
100%. I was like, you just come tell mama. Mama got you.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I love that. So sweet. It gave me goosebumps knowing that, truly. Because it's hard. I can imagine how difficult it is to be a part of two blood tribes and trying to formulate not only a new one in this physical world, but also, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like, you're the family. You've chosen and taken responsibility and decision that we're going to be the family that's going to change things. And that is, best way I describe it is kind of like going down a hill on a bike with the wind at your back. And then you're trying to be like, oh, we go in the wrong direction. We need a skirt. And like, just the inertia and the energy of what it takes to like press the brakes. Like, oh my goodness, I can only imagine how much pushback, very subliminal pushback. I'm so sure of it. And to still know that what y'all are doing is what's best for you and your family. So I think, commending to all y'all. Like I said, I was like, I can only imagine. I mean, I get to be the one on the outside and just get to witness and get all the goods, when they're not crying and when they're not farting, when they're not vomiting and when they're not pooping all over the place. I don't know what they're doing.
Just want to know that. And so if you're trying to change a diaper, you might want to come soon because she's almost potty trained. So I'm excited.
I'm sure I'll have plenty of chances to change someone's diaper soon, and I'm not gonna rush the process. I have no shame, y'all, to be 50 years old and still haven't changed a diaper. Okay, I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible. But if it happens, it'll happen when it wants to happen. So, anyways, fast forward us. I know that y'all. I told you y'all we was gonna talk, but we are finally at the hour, and we need to talk about entrepreneurship.
Yes, this is what happens when you talk to your family.
But also I'm just like, I ain't mad about it. Entrepreneurship. Tell us more about this journey. We heard a little bit about how you're like, I don't want to have to choose between my job and my kids. So tell us about the company you started in 2020. I know that you have 3 going on now. And like, what made you take the leap? Again, was it because you had kids, or you said you started it sooner? Like, yeah, just share with us how it's been so far.
So when I guess technically when I started the business, I started like January 1st, 2020. So at that point I was pregnant with Kamea. And she was born like a couple months later. And I feel like at that point I realized, like, even just going to work while I was pregnant, I was like, this is not it. This is not what I want. I don't want to have to, depend on this one stream of income. And then, like, I think in that time frame there were so many like layoffs happening, and and then there was such a lack of security in the space of like the jobs that everybody says, oh, this is, you stay here until you retire, and then you go live your life. um I feel like at that point I was just really just like focused on taking a risk again, you know what I mean? And saying, hey, you know what? When I really thought about it, like where I was working, I was like, when they tell me the story of how they started the company, like they started on their kitchen table, you know what I mean? And then it amounted to what it is, right now. And in my mind, I'm like, well, why can't I do that? I've been, talking this talk for a long time, and it was like at that point, it was like, it's time to walk the walk. Like, I'm pregnant with my baby. She's going to be here any day. And I want to be able to provide without having to, show up to a 9 to 5 every day. Now, I will, like, in reflection, I think that there was a standstill when I started my business because, like I told you, when after I had Kamea, I suffered from postpartum depression and not really knowing how to navigate that. And being that it was COVID, COVID was happening, so I was secluded, and I didn't have like, when I thought about becoming a mom, I thought that I would have, a tribe around me, I would have the support. Um, but being that I was like working from home, and I realized like, hey, like I'm working from home, I would take, once I clocked out, I was like, I'll take a couple hours to like work on the business. And I was like, this is something I can do. But it was like a slow start, just because like postpartum and just, things happening. And then, so that's when I started Quad. And back then, I didn't necessarily know what it really was because, like, you and I have, on our journey so far, we've switched so many things so many times. So, like, I can't even think of what Quad started off as. But I really started getting that moving in 2022. And then while I was doing that, I partnered up with Charlie because he started his business the same day as mine, January 1st, 2020. We both like filed our like LLC registration and got it official. So I started supporting him more because I was like, yeah, I can definitely work on my business, but I'm like, his was a little bit more established at that point. He had, had, 2 consistent clients. And so like I poured into supporting him, and then that's when he put me on like the business so that it was official. So that was business number 2. And then business number 3, I just wanted to like start something that I kept hearing like, oh, start a boring business. You know what I mean? Like a boring business is, something that has some security. So I launched a cleaning business, and it's been, that's been a good work in progress. So like that's a administrative business, cleaning business, and a multimedia business. And I don't think any of them really have anything to do with each other. But the beautiful part about the 3 businesses is that they all work hand in hand, because who does all my graphics? Charlie does. Who, who cleans our cleaning business does. Who takes care of all our administrative stuff? The co-op, business does. So I think we really just kind of both honed in on the things that we really love to do and reflected on like what skills that we already had. Charlie had, been in the multimedia space for about 5 years or 5 or 6 years. And as, we said in my bio that I've been in the administrative professional world for almost 20 years. So for me, it just like, it naturally worked its way into me becoming a digital business manager. Because like I said, I've always been the type of person to be of service to people. And it's just kind of like tying back in. And, but like becoming a digital business manager has allowed me to kind of take a step back from like the mundane parts of it, or like the little tasks, or like the lower level work, into now like the higher level work where I'm able to like consult people. I'm like, hey, from my experience in this, in this specific industry, I know that this is something that will really push the needle for you. I'm not going to handle the task for you, but I can help hire somebody to help do it. So I'm like in a space where I'm able to, like I told you before, instead of like pouring all of myself into others' cup, now I can just kind of like pour little drips and say, okay, you get a little bit, here you are, and this is how you can, make more of that water for yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. I know, getting to know you a little bit, and this is probably second to last question, but getting to know you a little bit and us getting closer since last summer, I I've observed the growth in you personally, and professionally. I'm curious of like of the things that came up for you. I think this is a big thing when it comes to entrepreneurship. What I'm observing is that, all the insecurities, the doubts, the fears come up, you know what I mean? And so, the stories, the old beliefs, the things of that sort, like what have you put together so far in terms of having to overcome those kinds of challenges? And like, why do you think those challenges come up? And like, how have you overcame them? And, yeah, what are you doing to overcome them?
Oh, that's such a great question. I feel like that's a work in progress. I will say that my huge, my number one motivator is my family, because like the things that, Charlie and I dream of, we want to be able to like, live a life where we're not constantly being called in different directions or, called in the directions of things that we don't resonate with. I think the resounding message is what I was speaking on before about this, like really chasing or just following after things that excite us. If we, really if we start, if we get invited into doing some project and like we've done a really good job of like, okay, here's the opportunity. Let's sit on it for a moment. Let's think about it. Like, how does this fit in with our life? How can we make this work? And then if we like identify and we like sit there, we're just like, hey, I don't really think this is exciting. This isn't something that, I think would be fun for us. I think this would cause more stress for our family. So I think we've gravitated to having conversations, or at least more, I guess, deeper conversations about like, hey, normally I think in the past, if we saw an opportunity, it was like, oh, that's money, let's take it. But I think in this transition of us, like from starting the business to like where we are now, we've learned the art of discernment and understanding that, hey, not all money is, good money. It's, what I mean? The experiences that we want. We want to be able to like work on passionate projects, projects that like really move us on the inside. And if it doesn't create that excitement, if it doesn't create that life, then we politely say, hey, no, thank you. We can refer you to somebody else that we know that, can help you out. Yeah.
I'd say when it comes to your girls, the little ones,
Yeah.
what is it that you're trying to do differently with them that you didn't get when you were younger, and how does that play into you helping other mothers? I know that that's what the agency is for. I actually want you to elaborate more so on that business, because for me, in my observation, that one seems like the one that you're most passionate about and seems like it hits more to the core.
I'll say one of the most pivotal things that I feel like I'm giving to my girls that I didn't have was a listening ear. Because I grew up in that era of like, you're a child, stay in a child's place, what opinions do you have? You don't know anything, I constantly challenge myself to like, if I'm like super busy, like if I'm in the kitchen like cooking, or if I'm working on a project and I like Kamea or True is like consistently coming back every couple minutes to like say something, and I can easily tell like, hey, I think they really want some engagement, you know what I mean? I put whatever it is that I'm doing down, or I take a beat and I stop and I was like, okay, what's going on? Tell me what's happening. What can I do for you to help, help ease your mind or whatever it is happening with you. So that's definitely something I feel like growing up where in my childhood, I didn't have like a voice. I didn't have a say in like most things that happen. But with Command True, they can decide like, hey, are we gonna go to the library today, or are we gonna go to the play place? Are we gonna take an early nap, or are we gonna take a late nap? You know what I mean? Like, we give them choices, we give them options, and we give them a say. And I feel like as a mompreneur, that's one of the, I think, the paths of least resistance, because so much, and I feel like growing up, we saw how hard our parents worked, and they didn't have time to stop listening to us, that they were working, my mom was working always like 1 or 2 jobs at a time, and also going to school and trying to like better herself and get a, higher paying degree, but she didn't have time to stop and be like, oh, what do you want to do today? Or, how are you feeling about, your day at school? So I feel like that's something that in my journey with the Quad agency and me wanting to support other mompreneurs, that's the main message that I want to put out is like, at the end of the day, the preneur part doesn't matter. The mom part matters. You know what I mean? Like, when you put your love into what you've created and what you brought into this world, that's, everything will come full circle after that point. And I feel like even recently, just like in the last month or two, I've definitely honed in on more of just like stopping, sitting still, and just saying, okay, where am I at? Like, how pressing is this task I'm doing? How pressing is it that I finish these dishes in the next 20 minutes? Can I take a couple breaks to talk to them?
Yeah. My last question for you, sis.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so. Who knows? But I mean, look, you a mompreneur, you actually in this thing, so I want to make sure that you get back to what you need to do, because I know you got something to do. So to wrap it up, what would you like to say to Kamea and True? But then also, more importantly, what would you like to say to little Christina too?
That to all the 3 young girls, I love you. Your dreams matter. And don't listen to anybody else but yourself, and challenge whatever comes your way. If it doesn't seem like something that's that fits your needs, then challenge it. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to go against the status quo. All of your ideas are valuable, and you can literally do anything that you want. All you gotta do is believe it, and you can achieve it.
Love that. Well, y'all, that's why I decided to become a part of this tribe, because I was like, y'all, everyone else, y'all wilding out here. And of course, choose the one that is wanting to do the work, the deep work, and that reversal from going downhill. It's not easy, and so I'm just so grateful and honored to be a part of it. And I look forward to, of course, you visiting. I look forward to the girls coming to visit, and I get to relieve y'all of your duties for a summer or so, unless they get on my dang nerves. I'm sending them back. Go back home.
No,
I'm just kidding.
You can't send them back till
just a little context, y'all. They're 2 little fire babies. We got little Aries babies and little Leo baby, and I'm a little fire baby. It's like, it's gonna be hot summers.
Summers for sure.
Oh man. Christina, where can they find you if they want to learn more about you and work with you?
So you can visit my website. That's Quoat Agency, is spelled like goat but with a Q. And on most social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, you can find me at Everything Systems, because I'm all about those systems.
I love that. And any last words before you head on out of here and continue to be the mom and the preneur?
It's that's a big title. Other than that, I'm just so grateful to have been on Connecting the Dots, because I feel like, this has been a long time coming, and I'm so grateful to be in your tribe and to be able to spread the love and the messages of just, perseverance and just going for things that excite you. So remember, always follow the excitement and leave all the other stuff in the dust.
I love that. Christina, thank you so much for being on the show. I very much appreciate you. And yeah, I will be seeing you very, very soon in July. So until then, all right, get back to work. Say hi to the girls for me. Say hi to Charlie for me. So you can go ahead and leave, and I'm going to talk to these folks after you leave. All right, love you.
Right. Love you too.
Bye. I think you just have to leave. All right, y'all. As you can see, I'm very intentional about who I bring on the show. I'm not just interviewing to interview. I'm not just getting followers to get followers. I was thinking about it this morning. I was just like, we need more role models. And I say that because I remember making a video back in the day where the title was No Role Models. And this morning I was like, no, we need more role models. And again, realizing that role models doesn't have, titles necessarily. And I think that's something that we're getting a little, we're kind of tripping up on nowadays. When we bring on entrepreneurs, I'm like, I need to create something that isn't already being, like, not that it's not already being done, it's being done, but I was like, I want to capture the stories of how they came to be. Like, yes, people do that, but what I'm having to learn about myself is like tapping into my zone of genius and being guided by my curiosity. And as someone who's an educator, online and offline, I just can't help but be curious about the little people that we used to be, and how do we continue to honor those little people that we used to be. And I say that, having Christina on the show and having True, my goddaughter, and her sister Kamea, like, I think about them often. I think about us often. And so I'm just like, how can they see themselves in us, and how can I find these people that they can look up to? You know what I mean? A lot of times, as you can hear in some of these stories, that our parents are probably not the best examples of who to look up to. But I would love for you to come here and know that, hey, like, I see some patterns here from this guest that K.Short had on, or I see that we had a similar background, or I've had similar challenges, or whatever the case may be. So that's why it's so important for me to show you all that it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and that when we connect the dots, when we get the chance to look back and connect the dots and see how we got to where we are today, like, it's such a beautiful process. Even may be difficult, but it's, again, what I'm noticing is just like who we used to be, and the problems that we had and the challenges that we had, we find ourselves solving them as we become older, and knowing that we have that choice to do that now. Like, if you're watching this right now, y'all, like, just recognizing how privileged we are, the fact that you're watching this on a device, that you have the free time to watch the last hour or so of this conversation, and just realizing that you're not the only one out there, and that you don't have to do it alone. So I have every intent, of course, is to continue to curate this community for y'all, so that you can see yourself in this space, in this place, and know that you can do anything that you set your mind to, as long as we don't give up, as long as we keep on going. So I hope that y'all enjoyed this episode with my sister, Christina Hall. You will be seeing her in the future in any future content that we'll be creating together. And I look forward for us connecting the dots even further. But other than that, y'all, I look forward to you to continue to be here. And just again, wanted to say thank you so much for watching this. I know that you could be anywhere else in the world right now. You could be spending your time with anybody else in the corner of the universe, but you're here, and I just never want to take that for granted. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to follow me on social media, you can at K.Short. If you want to subscribe, you can. But if you have people that you want me to interview, please leave them in the comments below. And I just look forward to growing and going through this journey called life with you. All right, y'all. Talk to you soon.
Trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make